on you the next couple of weeks from now. Hopefully these thoughts kind of circle around in your mind, That's where the real journey is going to be, right? So I like setting the mood. I'm a guy that likes to set the mood. And today's vibe, to me, is all about respect, honesty, people, sitting behind their screens at home. Mic's muted, but hopefully they're on camera as well so people can see their faces. Honesty, I like that word. There's a lot about Ikigai that has to do with honesty, right? Self-honesty, asking yourself the real questions, and not BSing yourself either. Like, I've grown up to think this, and this should be how I feel, so I'm going to kind of go along with this. No, you got to go deeper sometimes and be real honest. What you were saying before about your, sales. That was a moment of honesty.
It was.
You were great at it. You probably made, tons of money from it. You could continue making a lot of money from it, but you said, you know what? It's not it, right? So a lot of what I do, I think I bolded the word authentically working with my customers, because that's been such a driving value in a lot of kind of what I do day in and day out. I came from the corporate world, like you said, and in the corporate world, there's a lot of that is not authentic. There's a face sometimes that you have to put on. And it's part of it. I tell people all the time, like if you want to be an entrepreneur, own your own business, you actually have the freedom to do whatever the hell you want because it's your business. Mm-hmm. If you're going to be an employee, well, guess what? You're not going to be able to do that. You're just going to have to kind of, fall in line sometimes. And, the great companies are the one where you can, fall in line and still feel like you're bringing yourself every day. So, that word authentically is a real important one. I like to also set the tone in this room and all the viewers as well, that, I could only, ask for authenticity, I think, for being authentic myself. So I'm going to go through my vulnerable moment here, where I talk about who I am, right? 46 years old, I'm not embarrassed about that. Father of three, not embarrassed about that. Born and raised in Montreal, twice divorced. Man, I've spent years of my life getting over that guilt and that shame of being labeled someone twice divorced. And we were talking about this a little before our lunch. There was a moment where I saw myself in the mirror and said, dude, how the hell did you get here? Like, how did this happen? But that's honesty, and it's kind of where you build from that and all the work you do on yourself after that for me, purpose was that journey that started to unfold out of that. When I realized, this is not my best self and there's more. And I'm meant to give a little bit more in this world, and that's where things kind of unfolded. So from that, got myself certified as a professional coach, started my own coaching consulting business. So today, working with people, executive coaching, leadership coaching, one-on-one coaching as well, but also working with business owners to help grow their business with a lot of the 20 years of experience that I've had in the corporate world. In corporate strategy, project management. IT is my background as well, so I kind of had this wonderful experience in the corporate world that I've been able to bring into this new path now. Which brings us to the real-time poll, the first real-time poll. So I'm all about getting a good understanding of who's watching today. This is not going to be a canned presentation. I like to just kind of change things up on the fly. So this first poll here is just to kind of gather information from everyone who's hooked up online. In the room itself, you can just scan that QR code. It's going to take you to Slido, or you can just log on at slido.com and use the event code Ikigai.
I'm going to get my phone.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do
absolutely.
It too. Everybody online, make sure you're doing this too. Hopefully it works.
Yeah. And if you're logged on now, you should see a question that's popping up on your screen asking you, what would you like to take away the most from our session today? Everyone in the room got that?
Yes.
Yeah? Go ahead. Go ahead and just answer, and I'll put the results up on screen. Like I said, I think I've been to a lot of boring presentations in my life where it just kind of seemed like there was, endless content coming across at you with, not really addressing why you were here. So I want to just make sure we get the pulse of everyone that's here today. Take a moment and do that. That's great. So I see a lot of the answers coming in already. Confirmation of my purpose. How to apply Ikigai for teams in business. That's great. So I'm going to keep that in mind when we get to, applying Ikigai in business afterwards. Starting a journey of improvement. I'd like to clarify my purpose and vision so I can move forward in my business. Amazing. Well, we're definitely going to be getting into that. And I think there's just one more person typing right now. Oh, there's quite a few people typing. Connecting with people that resonate with my company's Ikigai. Nice. I didn't type that last one. I don't have a phone in my hand. There you go. That's awesome. Okay, so gaining the knowledge through the 4 questions to know if I'm realigning in the right direction. So we're actually going to be going through an Ikigai demonstration afterwards as well. So whoever is looking to gain knowledge in the 4 questions and actually, wants to clarify purpose, I hope you can raise your hand afterwards and interact, because we're actually going to be walking through a demo.
Yeah,
amazing. So listen.
Well, and two, just to kind of plug for the people that are here live, we're doing a VIP event right after this. We're going to do 2 more hours where Norm will not only walk you through the high level stuff, but will help you really get in and dig into these 4 questions. So if you're here live in person and you want to stay for that, you can upgrade and stay, and we're going to do 2 more hours. And then there's even Super VIP, which we'll talk about later. So
awesome. Nice. Well, thanks for that, everyone. That gives me a good context, especially kind of, the team, the Ikigai and teams, which I didn't even think about, but we're gonna touch on that afterwards. So yeah, I mean, the topics today really, getting into what is Ikigai, a little bit of a primer, just the background behind it. There's a health component, which I love the fact that you mentioned balance for entrepreneurs. Jason, I come across that a lot with my clients as well. It's so important, not just the physical health, but the mental health aspect as well. Yep. So there is a massive contribution that Ikigai has towards health, which I think is worth covering. Then we're going to dive into it, discovering your own Ikigai, walking through those demonstrations. This was a lot about Ikigai in business. When we had our chat, Jason, you were very clear that you wanted to have, real specific content for business owners, leaders, entrepreneurs. So we're going to have tons of content there. Basically, half of my session I want to devote to that and get as interactive as possible, because I know that's the audience that's here and probably logged in from home. And then obviously any questions that, more than my pleasure to get anything, answered as we get through that. So what exactly is Ikigai? I mean, if it's become such a popular term in self-development, if you Google it, I think you get something like over a few million pages now. I always look at it as, there's 2 definitions of Ikigai. There's the Eastern version, so if you actually, and I've spoken to Japanese people on this concept, and it's actually not that well, the 4 circles aspect of it, the Eastern side of it doesn't even go that deep, which is actually what I love, because it's so simple.
Yeah.
Ikigai, in its purest form in the Eastern philosophy, is just reason for being. It's a combination of 2 words, Iki, which means life, and Gai, which means shell. And the history behind it was that shells had value as like a trading monetary value back in between 794 and 1185, and those 2 words together, value, life, kind of came together, and it became a value for life, reason for being. So that's at its simplest base layer. That's what Ikigai means. It means literally waking up every day and feeling like there's a purpose in my life. That could be waking up every day and tending to my garden. That could be waking up every day and taking care of a grandchild. That could be waking up every day and crushing it in a multi-billion-dollar business. It varies, and it's so individual. And this is the beauty behind it. And Ikigai to me is it's like a fingerprint. It's a unique identifier based on who you are in the world. There's not similar Ikigais because every human being is different. They have a different story. They have a different past. They have different values. And all that goes into it becoming like a unique fingerprint, really, like an imprint, right? When we shift over to the Western philosophy, this is where we have to muddle things up and come up with methodologies and tools and stuff like that. But I actually think it's very practical, and obviously, like you said before, doing something that you love but you're not getting paid for. Well, guess what, buddy? Life's going to be hard, right? If you're not able to sustain yourself, not able to sustain your family, right? It's not a balanced and sustainable Ikigai, right? So, but that word, the common thread there is a reason for being, right? And I've seen, personally myself as well, you can achieve both. You can have the financial, along with that deep sense that, I'm sitting in the seat that I'm meant to be in, right? And it's usually the financial comes as an after effect because you're just so busy enjoying what you're doing and you're just so passionate doing it, and your energy just kind of becomes a little feverish with your clients. Well, guess what? The money just kind of comes from it, right? But I always say, we were talking about this at lunch as well, Jason, that sometimes things are easier in hindsight, right? When you're looking back on your journey and saying, oh, that was easy, that I made that decision. But when you're in the moment, it's not that easy. When you're in the moment of trying to figure it out, or you're in the moment of self-realization saying, wait a sec, I think there's something different. It's not that easy in that moment, right? So, going back to some of those real-time questions we saw of people trying to align, I get it. It's tough sometimes. It's tough because we don't have a clear idea. We don't have a clear answer of what that might look like. Or maybe there's too many options. That's what I also get a lot with my clients sometimes. It's like, I love too many things. I'm good at too many things. I want to do too many things. And that's a problem too, right? Because you know what? You can't do everything all at the same time either, because energy is just limited and you're not going to be able to bring things to fruition, right? So, that's basically what Ikigai is: purpose, reason for being. Right?
I want to ask you a question about something. I don't know if anybody's ever asked this. It may not make any sense, but are you familiar with the Fibonacci circle or sequence? I don't know what this, you know what I'm talking about? Kind of so like this circle.
That shell.
So I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with this, or online folks, but if you look at a shell, the way the shell is symmetrically where it connects is supposed to be perfection. A guy named Fibonacci kind of came up with it. Well, if you look at a fingerprint, it also has the illustration of the Fibonacci. Oh, wow. And you said use the shell, and then you talked about fingerprint. And so what we're looking for is the way our creators designed us. Just like he designed these shells, he designed our fingerprints. You have a fingerprint that you need to put on the earth that you can impact this world. And I think Ikigai, I don't know if anybody's ever kind of made those distinctions, but I think when I saw the picture of the shell and you said fingerprint, I'm like, wait a minute, this is the Fibonacci. This is Fibonacci right here. So go look it up. I think that's going to be a little deep. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're going to see there's another picture there that's going to blow your mind later too. So Ikigai and health, such a correlation between it. And this is, a lot of this is kind of what's in mainstream media right now. I don't know, on Netflix, there's a series about longevity. I don't know if anyone's seen that yet. Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, we got to talk about that afterwards. So basically, what that series was I think he was a National Geographic contributor that just made his a big part of his life just trying to figure out exactly why certain people in these blue zones, right, that we see here, Loma Linda, California, Nicoya, Costa Rica, Sardinia, Italy, Ikaria, Greece, Okinawa, Japan, why they're so special, because people just live longer there. And this is not like, a quasi science. No, this is hard science, hard stats. People live longer, right? So, the commonality there was that, there's a whole bunch of factors that they covered: diet, exercise, and one of the major ones that was a commonality too was people having an ikigai, a reason for living. That was one of the documented traits around those people that that live the longest in the world, is that they wake up, their life is a little bit simpler, and they wake up feeling this innate sense of purpose about what they need to do that day. So it's again, there's a whole bunch of science behind it. If anyone's interested, there's a link there, and like I said, you can Google this topic. There's tons of information, but the plan de vida, or the ikigai, as the Japanese refer to, actually reduces death. That's how powerful it is. This is not just a mindset thing. This is a mindset thing that translates into physiological, right? And can actually, impact the way you're feeling day to day physically. So that's how powerful, this concept is. One thing about that comment there about that Netflix show, since we're on topic here, and here's my personal theory about it as well. And it wasn't mentioned in that series, but I think the reason why people live that long in those areas too, you're talking about mindset before, Jason. I think a lot of it has to do with mindset of, well, if my neighbor has lived over 100, and John down the street is 102, well, why shouldn't I live to 105? There's no reason why I can't, right? I think that's a big factor too, and this is why mindset, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, positive people, that has the same impact, right? Surrounding yourself with people who are open to discovering purpose, who are open to asking the tougher questions, that has a lot to do with propelling yourself into that state where you can actually defy physics. These people are living longer, documented, like I said, from statistically. It's super interesting, and I think it also, combined with a lot of the factors that they have put out there, it also has to do with a mindset factor of, well, if these people around me did it, I think I can do it as well. Have you heard of that? The runner who broke the 4-minute mile.
Roger Bannister,
yeah. Came off the right. Talking about mindset, wasn't that, I find, is the story when it comes down to human mindset and the shackles, sometimes the restrictive aspect of mindset that could surround the human being. So back in I think it was the 30s, no human being had broke the 4-minute mile. Was like, out of all of the hundreds of years of the Olympics before that, no one had done it.
They said it was impossible.
They said it was impossible. They said it was impossible. It was, no human's going to be able to do it. They're not built this way, etc. Sir Bannister comes along and breaks it by like two milliseconds, I think, or hundredths of a second. But he did it, sub 4-minute mile. How long would it take? So this was over hundreds of years, probably, like thousands of years, right? How long do you think it took before someone else broke that record?
It was like the next week or something. It was pretty fast.
Yeah, it was like within the month, 2 people broke it. Not just one. 2 people in a row broke it, and then after that point, it was just like a snowball effect, right? And now, that 4-minute mile is just, it's been shattered. And I think people are going towards like the 3.5, or that's how powerful mindset is.
Yeah.
Right. The fact of as soon as someone says someone else did it, it's no longer impossible. And from that, you shift from just sitting around saying it's impossible to how can I get there, right? And everything becomes possible at that point, and you just start to structure a plan on how to get there, right? So that aspect of kind of planning things out, being intentional about it, we'll get into after as well when we're talking about Ikigai as an approach. But
I want to talk about the purpose thing. Yeah. I didn't know this, and I wonder if anybody online has questions about this, or anybody here live, is that people who live longer, according to this study, it's an indicator that knowing your purpose, you can live longer. And so I'm beginning to think about just laws of the universe. Like we all know that the things that serve a good purpose in our life, we keep longer. Like if the shoes you wear serve the purpose, you keep them longer than the ones that don't, when they're not serving the purpose. If there's a part on your car that stops working, you throw it away because it's not serving its purpose anymore. So as humans, if we follow that law, if we find our purpose, it stands to reason that, generally speaking, accidents notwithstanding, that we should live longer because we're fulfilling the purpose that we're on the planet for.
Yeah. There's an ease that comes when you're kind of walking that line of purpose.
Yeah.
Everything comes a little smoother. There's less friction, right? There's less fighting yourself and your mental voice day in and day out. There's less having to prove yourself, right? There's less having to feel like I'm not doing what I'm like. All that, I am sure all that adds up.
Yeah.
Less stress, absolutely. I mean, imagine waking up and the first thought you have in the morning is, "Oh, I hate doing this," or like, "Why I got to go to this job, or I gotta do something with my life right now that like I absolutely dread." And you're telling me that doesn't play into this, right? And you hit repeat on that on every day of your life. Come on, like it's actually pretty obvious that there's a health impact, right? Of how all that could be removed by just lining yourself with that sense of purpose, right?
Well, and so why do people do that? They do it for the wrong reasons. They do it for status, for money, for sex, whatever it is. I mean, people stay in miserable positions because of the money a lot of times when it's not their purpose. And I found that now that I've shifted, I now know that the reason I'm on this planet is to be a business coach, a teacher, a mentor for entrepreneurs. I don't. There's no qualm. I don't have any doubts about that.
Yeah.
And I have clients who are present, so you guys tell me if I'm doing it all right or not. But I know that. Now, the other thing is, here's what I know. I'm early on in this journey of knowing and living with purpose, and compared that financially where I was when I was doing something that was my purpose. I'm still not. I hadn't caught up yet.
Yeah.
So I fight those. Well, man, I'd make a lot more money if I went and did whatever. You know, if I went and did this company or started this business, I can make like more money.
Yeah.
But knowing your purpose gives you comfort of saying, you know, it's okay. Like I'm not going to do this for free, right, Leon? I'm not going to do this for free. Like I still got to get paid to do this.
Yeah.
But I'm comfortable with it. You know, I don't have to go make a gazillion dollars doing something I don't like.
Yeah.
Purpose gives me that ease of knowing it's okay.
You're comfortable being on the journey.
Exactly. Love it.
The mountain's there. The mountaintop's there.
Yeah.
And your comfort comes from knowing every single day you're taking steps towards that, right?
That's right.
As opposed to, I'm taking steps, well, where am I going?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, so, you know, that health aspect I find is huge. And, you know, this is not a, vague notion of you can improve your health by figuring out purpose in Ikigai. It's hard facts. So this was what you were referring to before, Jason. You know, like this thing, you Google it, you'll see it come up like, you know.
This is the Western complication of an Eastern philosophy.
But very, very practical.
Yes.
And I think what I will say in terms of value and the benefit from this versus an Eastern philosophy is it's actually a methodology that will help you. And it is a guide that will, you know, kind of, if implemented, will open up doors. So very valuable from my perspective. But it really comes down to the intersection of what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you could be paid for, not just personally, in business as well. I'm going to get into that later. In that sweet spot is purpose. That's the philosophy here. Is in that sweet spot. You could be operating at a high level, enjoying what you're doing, contributing because you're great at it, and not just, I'm decent at it and so is the other person in the room. No, uniquely kind of gifted at it. That fingerprint approach, right? You're going to be better at something than 10 other people next to you. What is that? And those are the internal aspects. So for Ikigai, it's very important. There's an internal aspect and an external aspect. And those first two quadrants, what you love and what you're good at, that's the fingerprint. That's the internal. That's like, that would define Jason Duncan. What you love and what you're good at, that's all about you, right? What the world needs, that's not about you. Now you start to go external. And what the world needs and what you could be paid for, those are the external factors, right? Because for someone to want to pay for it, right, that has nothing really to do about you, right? They're going to want to actually, pay you for it. So that's why those two other factors, what the world needs and what you could be paid for, I strongly always suggest you got to figure out the internal first, because that's the start point. Don't even start worrying about what the world needs and what you could be paid for, because in today's day and age, those are usually the easy questions that will be answered. Okay? But looking inwards to what you love and what you're good at, not so easy sometimes. That's where that self-honesty has to kick in. So in complete vulnerability again and authenticity, my own personal Ikigai, how did I come to doing what I did? I kind of want to walk through this to share the process, right? I took this very seriously, and this was setting time aside to really think through this, not in a kind of hustle and bustle way of, I kind of love this and I kind of like to do this. No, it was quiet time, hours of quiet time put aside to actually think through these questions. So, when I asked myself what I love, pretty easy, because these were kind of like the intuitive things that just kind of pop out. I love music. I play guitar. I love guitars. I love playing music. I love playing golf, right? I suck at it, but I love playing golf. Self-development too. These were things that I really, if you want to talk about passion, one of the best questions you can ask yourself, and what do you love? What can you spend all day long doing? And it'll literally feel like a minute just went by.
Yeah, that's the give you energy part.
That's the give you energy.
He's like, what gives you energy? And I was thinking, well, I'm really good at sales. The world needs it. I get paid for it. But I have no energy. I get no energy. It zaps my energy.
I could sit in the room all day long playing guitar, listening to, Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan and, different types of jazz. I could just zone out all day long and find something cool about what I'm listening to and be inspired by it. I could play golf all day long. I have.
Everybody who plays golf.
My wife doesn't enjoy it, but yeah, yeah, we got similar values, right? And I could talk about and think about self-development, mindset, all that stuff I love. I eat all that stuff up. I could do that stuff all day long. So for me, that list validated itself. These are things that I could spend countless hours and just spend all my energy on. But then you got to switch the gears now to what you're good at, right? And what you're good at, like I said, is not just the stuff that, you're decent at and your brother-in-law kind of does it the same as you. No, these are the things that you have to dig a little bit deeper and really kind of figure out, what's your unique gift, right? And the tip-offs when it comes to what you're good at, go back to what people have always told you. Friends, family, colleagues, when they always say, hey, Jason, you know what? You're really good at this. I'm coming to see you because you're great at this. I suck at it, and this is why, I want to come see you because I need some help. Those are the tip-offs, right? So when people kind of if you can't figure it out on your own because you're too humble and you just kind of say, well, I'm okay at it, really start to listen to external voices of what they've said about what people have said about you. You're really good at that. That's usually the big tip off. You're really good at this, Jason, right? So what was I really good at? leadership, coaching and developing people, coming from the corporate world. People, the managers I worked with, the directors, VPs, they've always told me, you're great at this stuff. Like, you're great at coaching people. Like, you're great at developing people. You're great at working with people and seeing, what their struggle is and helping them through that obstacle and really making it about them and not trying to just tell them what to do, but guide them, give them enough so that they can get to the next step on their own and feel like, you know what, I'm capable, right? I was really good at that. And, I come from an IT background, the tech stuff, the system stuff, the programming, like, I'm just good at it. I've always been naturally gifted at that stuff to be able to see very clearly through like the black and white of systems and logic, right? I also led HR and managed HR, so go figure, that schizophrenic as hell, like dealing with different topics, from a people issue, which is gray all the time, to a system issue, which is like black and white. That's just the way I'm wired. Like, I was just good at that stuff, right? So when I kind of had those two pillars there, right? If you notice, there's nothing really that obvious besides the self-development, the development, right? There's nothing really that obvious in those lists, right? But this is where you kind of like sometimes, with a lot of clients I work with, there is zero correlation between those lists. And this is where we have to spend a lot of time and really kind of dive a little bit deeper and get into kind of combinations, working through combinations of these things. But sometimes there might be something that just jumps out that you never even thought about, right? And for me, that was the case. I mean, the word developing, self-developing, developing people, that did jump out at me. And I said, wow, you know what? I love this stuff. I could spend hours talking about what self-development techniques and improvement techniques to use, but I never really thought about, can I actually turn this into a business? Can I actually turn this into, helping others? That thought never really crossed my mind. But, as you start to walk through the exercise, stuff did kind of jump out. Okay, leadership, coaching, developing people. Those are the things I'm great at. I love self-development and I love helping people self-develop. Boom. Like, then it starts to, fuse together and something concrete comes out of that. And like I said, what the world needs, what you could be paid for, kind of came out naturally after that. Well, does the world need people to help them become better leaders, more authentic owners and entrepreneurs, more real healed people, like, in terms of like my journey? Absolutely. The world needs it. Can you be paid for it? And then by the time you get there, you just kind of realize, well, obviously, there's I could write a book. I could, offer one-on-one coaching. I can, I can set up webinars and seminars and stuff like that. So the external factors, and this is what I always tell people, don't worry about those two external elements that much to begin with. Spend the time on the first two, right? Because the first two, again, that's your imprint, that's your fingerprint, right? And you need to really own those elements first before you can even dream of bringing in the external, customer side of things, or else it just becomes this big convoluted mess, right? Which is a lot of the kind of the feedback I've received from my clients is it gets complicated. There's like too many lists going on in here, and I kind of get lost in all of it, right? So that's definitely my suggestion is, start internal and then work it to the external afterwards.
It's really interesting the way you position the framework on this. I don't know how many people online or in the room who are live have ever done this before, but I didn't do it like that. I actually made an assumption or a presumption that it was sales. All right, let me run it through the matrix.
Got it. Yeah.
And then my wife was like, well, maybe it's teaching. Maybe that's the thing. Yeah. And then I ran it through the matrix. Like, oh, that's it. So I didn't do what do you love? I love pizza. I love motorcycles. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
But I can see as a coach, you working with somebody one-on-one, that this would in fact lead someone through this process without having to make great assumptions or do that. So
yeah,
I love that. Now we have a question from online. Justin, would you read out that question to us?
Yes. James says, how can I get over mindset barriers that prevent me from thinking that I can do something I love and also make a lot of money with it?
All right. So the question, just so that everybody can hear it, is we have a question from online. How can I get past the mindset
barriers
that
prevent me from thinking that I can do something I love and also make a lot of money with it?
So there's mindset barriers related to what you think you can do and make a lot of money. Does that make sense to you, Norm?
Yeah. That's such a great question, because that one comes up a lot. If you perform this exercise, sufficiently, and you spend the time properly with it, and you're honest about it, typically what jumps off the page eventually is something that's going to scare the crap out of you. Okay.
Okay.
Right? If you did that, if you get that feeling, you're doing it right. Because if you're actually performing this exercise, it means that you've probably come to a place in your life where you're not that satisfied. You're not feeling aligned. You're not feeling like whatever you're doing right now is giving you that sense of purpose. And when you actually go through this honest, self-reflective moment and simplify things, and then just allow, your true voice to kind of like get amplified a little bit, it's going to say some things that are going to look really scary at first, right? And I'm guessing that question from James really kind of relates to, okay, when something scary jumps off the page at me, how do I work through that and get over that? And I always tell my clients, you don't need me necessarily to come up with these two circles here, like to fill out the blanks over these two circles, right? You can probably do this on your own. Where you may need my help is actually executing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And actually, being able to create a plan to walk through that, to get through the mindset, right? This, just like I do, Jason, walking through anything mindset related, right? There's a big aspect of it, which is just stupid habit, right?
Right. Yep.
Just change what you're doing every day, right? If you're waking up performing, steps A, B, C, and you're getting result E, well, guess what? If you wake up tomorrow performing A, B, C, you're going to get, E, most likely. You're going to have to be willing to change the habits. And this is what is the scariest thing about mindset and barriers is the all or nothing principle. That's what I call it, right? It's like, I need to do something now so I can break through from this so I can achieve everything overnight. It's not going to happen that way, right? You're going to have to just take small incremental steps. And it's the same in personal. It's the same in business. When I work with my business clients, coming up with a 3-year strategy, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to have to we're going to have to at least define what it is you're trying to achieve, and then create the baby steps, right? Week in, week out, quarter to quarter, to actually get there, right? So to answer James's question, it's not such an easy, probably not the answer you want to hear, James, but A, you're going to have to be willing to do the work, and B, you're actually going to have to, be willing to change the habits to get a different result, right? There's a massive aspect of when something is good and truly speaking to your purpose. Like I said, it will scare you, right? But you're going to have to be willing to be honest and say, is this worth it? Is this going to be worth the sacrifice? And if the answers are yes, you're going to have to do the work.
Mm. Good answer.
Good
answer.
What I wanted to say was, when exploring, because I cannot emphasize the aspect of being intentional about this, right? This is not an exercise that you can do while watching a game and having a couple beers and while answering emails. Like your state of mind in that state is still, I call it that surface state, right? Your state of mind is very surface. It's still scratching along the lines of what should I do? What is expected for me to do? What should I be doing based on what I've been doing in the last 20 years, right? Like, those are surface thoughts, right? You got to be ready to get intentional to go, one level deeper. Get away from the surface thoughts into the real uncomfortable zones sometimes, kind of like what James was referring to before. It's going to get uncomfortable maybe if some honesty starts to come out, right? If it's a direction that is completely 180 degrees away from what you've been doing in the last 15 years, that's going to be uncomfortable. Because the thoughts of, well, I just spent the last 15 years doing this. I'm going to waste all this time.
Yeah.
My family expects me to do this, right? My wife expects me to do this. There's money that's coming from this. How else am I going to support myself? My friends, I'm going to lose my circle of friends because all of my friends are, on this path. Those are real concerns. Those are scary thoughts, right? But if you're already identifying that in a moment of self-honesty, that your intuition is telling you that it maybe is a little bit off the path, right? That's worth exploring, right? And this is what I mean by intentional. Don't just shove it out of your mind and just say, oh, you know what, this is some, some weird coaching stuff that I'm starting to see on Instagram right now. And like, and I'm just going to bury this because, this is, maybe just, a thought that's coming across, but it doesn't mean anything. Because I could tell you every single moment after that, it's going to come back. Yeah. This is what I hear all the time with my clients. Sometimes they tell me, it's been years that I've been wanting to do this. No joke. I just worked with a client a few months back. I think the longest stretch that I heard was, it's been 10 years that I've been wanting to do this, right? And when I asked, so why have you not done anything about it in the last 10 years? I think like every single answer I gave before, my friends, my social network, like all those things just came rattling off. But the amount of suffering that comes after 10 years, man, I had just wished, and I told him, I said, I wish, we had this conversation 10 years ago, because maybe you would have been able to do something with all those years. But however, the good news is you're ready to make a change now.
When do you think it, or in your experience, Norm, that it's appropriate for a human to begin considering Ikigai? And I'm going to tell you why my question is very biased.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you why I'm asking the question. Part of me, as a former school teacher who taught 13, 14-year-old kids, is, man, how cool would it be if I'm teaching 13, 14-year-old kids this concept so they could be thinking about it. But a 13 or 14-year-old kid doesn't have the life experience. They don't know what they like. They don't know what they love. I certainly don't know what they're good at, because they still can't walk. Like, they still trip over stuff. They're clumsy. Yeah. And their brain is not fully developed. But then on the other side, well, I still might rather them go ahead and think about it. Yeah. So in your opinion, when should a human really give serious consideration to this?
As soon as possible. And what do I mean by that? I think there's a lot of the people I've worked with in the past where it kind of went off, and they spent years doing something they didn't want to do. That a lot of that came from story. I mean, and human beings, we all run with a story. Right? We're all programmed with a story. And that story started from parents that through good love and intention told you need to get a 9-to-5 job and be a doctor or an engineer, right? Even though it came from a good place. But if that story was just, burned into your imprinted into your, what does success look like in life, that's already starting to mess with an Ikigai and a sense of purpose, potentially, right? Because maybe that's not the imprint of that child, right? So this is kind of what I mean, as soon as possible. You're absolutely dead on when you say life experience. Without enough life experience, talk to my 11-year-old daughter, like, what do you want to be, or she gets in the car after school and says, oh, now today I want to be a therapist, last week it was a zookeeper, the week before, so you're absolutely right. Without the life experience, it could just kind of go all over the place, right? But it's a mix of both, I think it's about encouraging the journey, that, your sense of purpose and finding out your fingerprint, is kind of up to you, with allowing that life experience to take place and not shoving down their throat this preconceived notion of what you should do. Because let's be honest, usually those preconceived notions are what the parents wanted for themselves.
Yes.
Right?
We live vicariously through
Well,
our
this is
children.
it. Become a doctor, become an engineer. Usually that's because I wasn't able to do that, right? Because I didn't have those opportunities, perhaps. So I need you to do it right now because I would have wanted to become a doctor and engineer, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. So being able to kind of, take a foot off the gas there and realize, you know what, maybe my kid's imprint is supposed to be unique and of their own is the way to go, in my opinion.
Well, we got another question from one of our live stream viewers. Justin?
Jenny is asking, does our Ikigai change as we go through different stages of life? And if so, how should we approach these changes?
That's a great question, Jenny. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
So the question, Norm, just to repeat it so that everybody could hear it online, is that does our Ikigai change through different stages of life?
Yeah.
That's the essential part of the question.
My view on that is I compare that to kind of core values. So I think they will modify with time based on situation in life, based on life experience like we talked about, but I don't think they're going to dramatically change. Because again, if you talk to anyone over the age of mid-20s or 30s, at that point a certain set of values set in, right? And I'm not talking about your occupation and your job and what you're doing, but your outlook on what is right in the world, what is wrong, what do I actually enjoy doing. These things kind of set in at a certain stage and don't change that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have really just been polar opposites and you realize that what you really love is way on the other side. But I don't think they typically they don't if you're walking that line of purpose, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to dramatically change. I think factors will kind of modify along the way, right? But to your point, Jason, your sense of purpose, your Ikigai, coaching, helping people, teaching, right? Can you see yourself doing anything that far off that path right now?
No.
Yeah.
Right. And I go back and I look at my life, as a teenager. I was always, I wasn't a leader in the sense of like what you would normally see in a high school. I wasn't the popular guy that like led everybody and had everybody follow me around that we see. But I was a leader in my youth group and friend circles. I was the one that people relied on. So I was like, okay, leadership, I can see that through the thing. And then when I became an older teenager, 18, 19, and decided to go into ministry, which I spent 13 years in ministry right out of high school, that was all about teaching. And then I became a school teacher, which is obviously, it's in the title. I was a teacher.
Yeah.
And then life completely shifted and I became an entrepreneur. And looking back, I can see that divergence, but I see how through the whole entrepreneurial journey over these last 13 years, building a multi-million-dollar company and being successful and making a lot more money than I did as a preacher or a teacher.
Yeah.
But I see the divergence, but I realized that the bright spots and all that, although the money was nice, I will admit.
Yeah.
But the bright spots in that was when I had the opportunity to teach. Because this room that we're sitting in now, I opened this room up in our office space primarily to have a place to bring all my employees together and do these team meetings to teach. And it didn't occur to me at the time that I'm just trying to somehow fulfill my life's purpose.
Yeah.
But now looking back, I see it very clearly. So Jenny, I would agree with Norm that with some exceptions, I don't think it changes. It's just how it manifests.
Yeah.
Will probably change.
Yeah, the events, what is going to happen, those things will change. But like you said, you already see it kind of walk that line, right?
Exactly. It's good questions. Anybody live have questions too? Make sure you just raise your hand, get our attention. We'll make sure to answer your question.
That was that other picture, Jason, because I thought that guy in that picture looked a little bit like you.
He doesn't have a beard though.
Yeah. So when exploring Ikigai, 3 steps: be intentional, provide the space. Don't make it a rushed exercise. Be open and honest. I cannot overemphasize that enough. Honesty, self-honesty, right? Be open to being scared with whatever pops up, off that page. And lastly, ensure it's healthy and sustainable. So there's no point in coming up with something that's you're not going to be paid for. Because guess what? Not sustainable. right? You're not going to be able to carry it forward and, make it long standing, and make sure it's healthy. And when I say healthy, mentally and physically, right? You can't do something that's going to burn you out, within a month or two, because, well, that's not really purpose then, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, can I ask you a question about the pay thing?
Yep.
So if I talk to a stay-at-home mom,
Yep.
she's not getting paid for that. So, but she truly believes that her life's purpose is to be that mom. What would you say?
Then I'd say there's more to explore. Then I'd say, you know what, we could probably figure out how we can, make some money on this and make enough. And again, this is really key. Working with my clients, I always ask the very hard dollar question: how much money do you need right now to survive? Right?
Yeah.
Not how much money do you want to have in your bank account, because typically that should just have endless zeros adding to it. But if you're serious about making this change and you've come to this point where I've had enough, I can't do this any longer, I need to change, this path I'm on, well, then you should be willing to make that change with enough for now, right? This is not, that monetary amount for the next 5 years. This is enough for now, right? That's what I mean by sustainable. You have to live, right? Because if you're not able to just, get over that living mark, you're just going to be stressed out all day long about, where's the next dollar coming in so that, I can eat and support myself, right? So, I'm not going to spend too much time here, but I think we covered so much today about how can it change your life. It's life changing. I mean, you're a testament to that, Jason.
Yeah,
100%. Right? Waking up and not having that sense of dread and not having that sense of misalignment and frustration. It is life changing, and you have that much more energy to give back to community, have that much more happiness in your life that you want to continue working, helping others, right?
Yeah.
You approach family differently. I can't overemphasize this one enough. Like, just the fact that your mindset is going to be more at ease, you will look at your family different, right? And instead of just that kind of 9 to 5 droning that occurs of finishing work, going back, having that meal with the kids screaming around the table, it all of a sudden becomes a lot more bright and reflective, where, wait a sec, I'm actually doing something I'm enjoying right now. I'm grateful of that. And look at the beautiful people I have around me. Like, the perspective shifts.
Yeah. The mindset
right?
is big.
Yeah. And nothing actually changes. Same kids, same wife, same house, right? But it looks different and it feels different, right?
We have another question from online.
Alan is asking, how do you recommend balancing the pursuit of personal passions with practical considerations like financial stability when searching for one's Ikigai?
That's a big question. So he asked us to repeat it for the people online. How do you balance out the pursuit of personal passions?
Considerations, financial stability when searching.
So you balance out your pursuit of your passion with the practical consideration you got bills to pay.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way to say that, right?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
That's very relative to who you speak to, by the way. Some people are ready to just scrap it all, right? I'm willing to start from scratch because the path I'm on right now is so painful, right? So Alan's question is probably coming, and I'm guessing, Alan, that it's not that painful right now, which is why there's a lot of consideration for financial stability, right?
Yeah.
Right, because it's kind of something I want to do, and I want to go over here, but I'm not really sure, and I'm making all this good coin right now. So why am I willing to trade it off, right? It may remain that way, for a few months, Alan. And you know what? At a certain point, you may actually tell yourself, I don't need. You know what? It's all right. I don't need to make that much. I'm willing to take a pay cut. I'm willing to drop X amount of percentage in what I'm earning right now because the payoff is worth it, right? So this is why it's so subjective and it's so individual, right? But to give a bit more of a practical answer to that, this is where and we'll get into it when we start talking about business. This is where you have to analyze the finances a little bit more,
Yeah.
You got to pull out the Excel sheet. You're going to have to pull out the Excel sheet and really look at, what, because making money or sustaining lifestyle, right? That's a very vague statement, right? How many zeros need to be there for that actually to happen? And in an option that I'm considering that's a little bit more on my line of purpose, maybe there is an option already, right? When you actually break it down to those dollars and cents, where you actually run through the math and realize, oh, you know what? I'll be 90% of the way there, right? In year one. And by year two, I really plan to exceeding that. So that is going to be part of the journey as well.
I would say too, my perspective on that would be to flip the question around. What are you willing to pay to live the life that you think you're supposed to be living?
Yeah, that's great.
Like, what are you willing to pay? One of the questions I ask prospective clients a lot of times is, would you be willing to give up a year's worth of personal income so that next year you're living exactly the way you want to live? And of course, it's not a real question in terms of like, you don't have to do that, but would you do it?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people would say, no, I wouldn't do it. And that's okay. They haven't experienced enough pain, and to use your analogy. But there are a lot of clients, prospective clients, that come to me and I ask that question, like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, where do I sign? Because if I could spend X number of dollars to immediately jump into that life that I want, make my business exactly the way I want. But really, that gets down to Ikigai helps you make that decision better, because you should always trade your money for time.
Yeah.
But don't trade your time for money. Because time is a non-renewable resource. You don't get that back once it's spent. So those 10 years that lady or whoever that person was that lived not pursuing this is time she doesn't get back. Where if she'd have just spent the money, maybe invest in a coach, maybe invest in a mastermind, she could have accelerated that, and for the last 9 would have been living the life that she wanted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my thought. These are great questions. Keep them coming, everybody.
I think we're going to start shifting the gears into business.
All right.
Ikigai for business, and how we can apply it more in a business context. So, a couple of questions on the poll here. Give me one sec. I just realized I'm going to have to kick it off. So we should see right now on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied currently are you with your current business or job? This is the pain meter. Where's the level of pain in the audience today?
So far, so good. Everybody's on the top end.
Yeah.
Seven and a half, huh?
Yeah. Well, I definitely want to work with the 5 individual afterwards. So are we still going on here? Okay. All right. So 7.6. You know what? This is a great group then. Like the pain meter is not extreme right now. Mm-hmm. Everyone's kind of living it and doing what they need to, which is fantastic. Oh, there's a 4, so I'm gonna have to talk to the 4 afterwards. And a quick little follow-up answer to that. Follow-up question, sorry, to that. Using just one word, what holds you back from building the business you want or having the dream job that you want? What's the obstacle? What's holding you back from that? And again, even if the scores were high, everyone still has, dreams and objectives of what they want to do with their business or job. What's that obstacle right now? This is a tougher one.
Yeah, everybody's thinking.
One word makes it a little tougher sometimes, but we'll get there. Oh yeah. Okay.
I'm assuming the bigger the word is.
Yeah, the
more
bigger the
people.
word is, the more people. Yeah. So we're seeing a trend here, right, between funding and clarity. So more dollars, and clarity. I saw time pop up over there, which I kind of find interesting because there's a lot of time if you think about it, right? And everyone has the same amount of time, right?
That's right.
You were talking about before. And I think that goes back to clarity. That goes back to why does it feel like you don't have enough time right now? What's causing that sense that there's not enough time? But yeah, I think money, funding, we're going to pair those up, and clarity. So great, good to know that this is where this group stands. So I'm gonna take this into going into the business aspect of clarity and money as obstacles to developing the business. Can I ask as well? There's one individual that answered 4. I don't know if they're online or in the room, but if that individual would kind of be brave enough to come up as a kind of live volunteer,
Who was the number 4 out of 10? If you're willing to say it.
Yeah. Is anyone identifying them? No?
No, it's okay. You don't have to.
It's okay, yeah.
You don't have to.
I wanted to do a little bit of a real-time coaching exercise with that individual, but okay, so now we shift the gears into business, okay? So, I always marvel at this kind of perception that, being personal life and business are two remote worlds and they don't intersect, and what I do at business has nothing to do with who I am as an individual and as a person, when it couldn't be further from that, right? We're still human. This is what I say all the time, right? You're a human being that has human qualities, that connects with other human beings, right? You're always going to be inspired as a human being to seek out purpose that's true to you, right? And I think that's that aha moment. When you start to align to something that's true to you and starts to speak to you, the lights start to shine a little brighter, right? And I'm sure you experienced that, Jason, as you went down your path to become a coach. Like, this started to speak to you, and you started to realize, you know what? There's something here that I want to further develop into business and bring more of into the business, right? So when we look at those first 2 quadrants, what do you love and what you're good at, right? In business, this applies 100%, right? The problem with scaling your business, though, and being able to build the business, right? If you're too busy doing things that you don't love and that you're not good at, and again, those things you should find a kind of an overlap on those, then you're just doing the wrong things, right? And maybe this is why you're feeling like the business is not moving forward, or you're feeling a sense of dread every morning when you're waking up, right? If you don't like, doing accounting and, printing out invoices for your clients, right? Well, don't do it then, right? Find someone. And in today's world, there's no excuse to not be able to outsource that stuff in today's economy, right?
That's right.
In today's digital economy with the world, there's virtual assistants that exist. There's no reason why you should not be able to get that off your plate, so that you can keep as much mental energy on the things that you actually do love doing in your business. And maybe that is sales. Maybe that is more marketing strategy, or coming up with ways to develop the business, which, by the way, if you're a leader and a business owner, you should be spending 80% of your time doing, right? Where's the business headed? Not, I got to produce invoices and take customer support emails.
You got to exit without exiting, is what I teach.
Yeah, right. So you should be spending 80% of your time doing those things, right? Yeah. And if you're not, and if you're an owner of a business that actually doesn't enjoy talking about strategy, vision, and moving the business forward, well, make sure you hire some smart people around you who can do that you trust, right? That can do that while you're in the field being a technician, let's just say, because that's the work you really like to do.
Yeah.
And it's your name on the building.
Right.
Right? You don't need to be sitting behind the desk. Right? And this is what, applying it to business is you got to figure out how do I best contribute to my own business? Right? What should the job, because again, you have the flexibility of actually doing it. You can change it tomorrow. You can walk in tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm not doing this, and this anymore because I own this business, right? You have the power to do that, right? But it's about figuring that out, and sometimes the blockage is, yeah, but if I'm not going to do it, who else is, right? This person's not, this person can't handle it. This person's not trained to do it. Well, that still is a you problem, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. You got to train them. You got to delegate. You got to move people up for you to be able to do that. So there's such a parallel. I mean, purpose, personal, what you love, what you're good at. Those two same things could be talked about in an entrepreneur in a business setting, and to stay focused on those things. Right. In my businesses, right, I am great at the coaching, delivering the consulting. I have the experience for it. That's what I'm good at, right? I can't outsource that right now, which I also realize it's not a scalable business, right? But I'm okay with it because I'm walking the purpose right now. But I realize that everything else I look at on a constant basis. I don't want to get bogged down on everything else because I'm not going to enjoy my business after that. So at any level, these things apply, right? Staying focused on what you love and what you're good at. Then we switch over to the outside aspects. What the world needs, well, that's literally what your customers and your business community needs, right? And how can you be more profitable, right? What can I be paid for?
Mm-hmm.
How can my business be more profitable? And that is the Excel aspect, like I was talking about. You're not going to cut corners there. You're going to have to do the exercise of, do I need to price better, right? So these strategies go right into, business basics. Am I pricing properly, right? Someone I was working with recently, told me, well, I can't charge that much. My clients would just disappear. And I said, are you telling me this because you've tried, or you're telling me this because you think, right? It was obviously the latter. It was, I think, no, I've never tried, right? So again, mindset, back to Alan's question, I think before, like the mindset. Well, if you've never given it a shot, how do you know, right? And what's funny is that client was almost able to double their rate.
Love it.
Right?
I love
just by saying, listen, at these rates that I'm charging, my profit margin is just not not cutting it. Well, they were able to, it was a lawyer, by the way, and she was able to almost double her rate, and that has to go into the analysis side of things, right?
Did you just tell me you encouraged the lawyer to double rate?
My client. Not all lawyers. Yeah, exactly.
Well, let me ask you, and I think everybody in the room probably knows the book Good to Great. Jim Collins. Everybody read this? Everybody read the book? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So he has something he teaches in there about these businesses. They have something called the hedgehog concept.
Yeah.
And it just occurred to me for the first time that the hedgehog concept is his version of Ikigai for business.
Yeah.
And it's only 3 questions.
Yeah.
I think if we remember correctly, it's what are you passionate about? Like you really like to do. What drives your economic engine, and what can you be best in the world at? Those 3 questions, which encompass these 4. I think that's really cool. I remember sitting here in this room years ago with my core team, and we spent hours on end over weeks, and we did a hedgehog concept, the Venn diagram around those 3 things.
Yeah.
And when we figured that out, the one that was most interesting for us was what drives your economic engine. Like we thought it was this thing, but actually our engine was driven by this other thing that we really didn't make any money on.
Yeah.
But if we didn't do this, none of this happened.
Yeah.
And so I think that if anybody wants to go check that out, Good to Great by Jim Collins. It was published in 2000, so it's an old book. I think all but one company still in business that he studied as a great company.
Yeah.
Circuit City didn't make it. Sorry, guys. everybody else made it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was interesting. Hey, we have another we have another question. But before we go to the question from online, I need to tell everybody about Desk Rig. This is mainly for you people that are watching this online. Desk Rig is the company behind what you're seeing right now with all the switching of screens and the cameras going back and forth. This is a company owned by Garen Parkins, who's our producer behind the scenes, and his guy Brian's actually helping us today. But if you want to do any productions like this, if you want somebody to show up and help you do live like we're doing, if you want to do online stuff, if you just need your desk rigged up in your office so that you can do a home studio or an office studio, reach out to the guys at Desk Rig. Do we have some information that we could put on the screen, Justin or Brian? Is there any information? I don't know, because they didn't know I was going to say this, so I'm plugging them because I think they're awesome. Anyway, go to deskrig.com, DESKRIG, right? That's how you spell it. Am I spelling it right? Deskrig.com. These guys are amazing. So thank you to Garen and Brian behind the scenes for making all this happen. All right, let's go to our online question. What do we got?
Okay, Mark or Casper was 4 responses, but the question from Mark is, do you have any inspiring stories of people who found their Ikigai? It would be awesome to hear how it changed things for them.
Stories? Do you want to save that for the end? We only got about 15 minutes left.
Yeah.
You want to save those for the end?
Yeah, I think so. I think I would just kind of, because this is an entrepreneur series, I just want to make sure that, I kind of target the stuff, but we're definitely going to come back.
Definitely going to get to that. Question was, do we have any inspiring stories about someone discovering their Ikigai and how it changed things? So we'll give Norm time to answer that closer to the end. We're going to be wrapping up here at about 15 on the core content. And then we've got a gift that we're going to give everybody at the end, an option to cash in on a gift. So just hang tight. We're going to get to you there. You got another question?
From Karen, is finding your Ikigai more about the journey than the destination?
Is it more about the journey than the destination, Norm?
It's both.
Oh, it's both.
It's both, and I'll explain. Absolutely, the journey is a massive part of it, right? And the destination, it's actually, the destination doesn't exist. The destination is what you thought the destination was going to be at the time you set out, right? Right. And as we all know, it keeps moving out, right? And I think it's about both, because defining what that interim distant destination is going to be to motivate you enough, right, is important. And when you get there, it fuels the next step. And it makes it that much more realistic and that much more powerful that, hey, look at what I was able to accomplish in this amount of time. Something that I thought I wasn't able to accomplish. I'm here now. What else can I do? Right? So it's kind of that iterative cycle, like you get there, then you're bold enough to plan something else out, right?
Yeah.
So equally important. That's what I meant by it.
Agreed. Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that.
I wanted to come back when it comes to business, the same things I said about, coming up with your personal Ikigai, being intentional about it. And this, with all the business owners I work with, it always comes up. How much time are you setting aside to plan and to look strategically at your business? And potentially ask yourself the question as a business, what are we good at? What do we do better than all of our competition, right? And to actually start to refine your products, your services, to actually just stay focused on that. You're offering 20 different products and services, but you're only really good at 2. Well, just focus on the 2 then, right? And when we actually run through the P&L exercise of looking at, the P&L and, I actually ask, can we see, the revenue that's been coming from all the different products? It's the Pareto principle, right? 80-20 shows up. They're absolutely right. It's the 2 products or services that are basically fueling the company, but they're spending so much time on everything else, right? And having to worry about all these other products and services they're offering. So again, it's like stay focused, refine, but make the time for it, right? Have a quarterly review session for your strategic plan. Work with key people in your company to actually put that time aside. Come up with the right measures, KPIs on a monthly basis to actually see, am I driving towards, those results? These are the things that you have to stay focused on, right? And talk about what you love, not only is, I think I'm jumping across. I think we lost the screen here. Yeah, I think I lost the screen behind. But for business as well, sometimes it's not like there's a lot of talk about the why. Simon Sinek, the whole focus on why you do, like, why are you in business? Why are you doing something? Because that drives purpose. I think that's important, absolutely, but I think the how sometimes is very much overlooked.
Hand me your computer while you're talking. I'll fix that to get that back on the screen.
Yeah. Thinking about the how I'm running my business. How many hours am I spending doing it? Am I factoring, enough family time into it? Those are the hows of how to run the business. And sometimes when you make tweaks on that, it actually makes you sit back and realize I am sitting in this seat of purpose right now, right? Because I am more balanced. I am doing it in a more balanced way. The how is changing the way that I feel about this business that I've created, or this job that I have, and all of a sudden, like magic, from one day to the next, it feels that much more aligned with purpose, right? Personal example there, I work primarily from home, and when I get off, a conference call, or I get out of the meeting at home, and I walk downstairs and I see my wife and my 5-month-old baby, and I get to play with her. That's the how that I've set up. I set it up that way, and that works for me, and that's what I wanted. But I can tell you, my business makes that much more sense to me, right? And I feel that much more of a sense of purpose because I'm following the way I set it up, right? Thinking about it now, maybe I could work in the golf course there.
It's your password. We're going to try to get you.
Yeah, exactly.
This was a Google Chrome thing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Maybe working it on the golf course and working from there might be the next level of how. But no, I think, like I said, the tweaking the how is such an overlooked factor sometimes, right? Because there's so many quick little fixes in there that probably just by making a few little changes, things could already feel that much better, the next day.
We are having some technical difficulties. I don't want Apple TV to keep distracting everybody in the background.
Yeah.
So give me just a second. Were you using Canva desktop?
No.
It's because it's not giving me your menu at the top. Yeah. Because I want to make sure that we are able to go back, but it's not. See what it's happening?
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I shut it. I thought maybe it would reset Chrome, but it's not.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm looking at the content over here, Jason. We don't even need it anymore.
All right. Well, then I'm going to put my computer up so we're not looking
right.
at Apple TV. So you go right ahead.
Yeah, I think at this point, I wanted to get a little bit interactive as well with the group. For the entrepreneurs, for the business owners out there, any questions with regards to how to further apply the concept of Ikigai purpose to the business?
Yeah, so if you got questions from a live group inside the room or on live stream, this is where we can get into some Q&A time over the next 10 minutes or so. So if anybody's got questions, and we will get back to Mark's question about the stories.
Other than putting it on the board, or kind of some of the stereotypical team building exercises, other than that, being very clear about the Ikigai business, how do you align employees and other team members to understand your Ikigai personally is important, but when we are here, right, ELS or even EMS, this is EMS's Ikigai. This is what we're working towards here. How do you, other than the stereotypical team?
And I try to repeat that for the people that couldn't hear online. I know it's a lot, but try to repeat that.
I think the question was, how do you kind of take an approach with your own staff, with your own teams, right? And not necessarily through just the kind of typical on the whiteboard exercise. How do you make it a little bit more real with teams? I think that aligns great with a question that came up in our first real-time poll, which I was making a mental note to get to, so I'm happy that it all came around. Teams are made up of people. Again, I bring in the human aspect. And every team member that you have within your organization has a different fingerprint and a different makeup in terms of what's going to motivate them, what's going to relate to them, and taking the time to figure that out and actually turn it into part of, day to day at work, right? I'll give you an example. One of the companies we were working in, there was this guy that loved soccer. One of the managers, World Cup, he would just be freaking out. He would tell his boss he wasn't going to be around, because of his team was on that day. And he was a very important manager in that business, right? So how do you bring more Ikigai, sense of purpose, into the business? Working with my client, I said, you got to get this guy's soccer more into the business. And he kind of looked at me and said, well, what do you mean? I said, did you see this guy's eyes light up? Whenever he talks about soccer, it's as if, no one could do any wrong. He's passionate, he's energetic, right? You got to tap into that and bring it into his business. And the funny thing that came out was we encouraged them. We said, hey, listen, why don't you turn your team meetings, your weekly team huddles, right? Why don't you just bring soccer terminology into it? Why don't you turn it into talk about the year having two halves, right? Talking about 90 minutes and what you're trying to accomplish with your team in that 90 minutes. He took it to the next level. He actually came in with a referee jersey on. It was but complete shift of attitude, motivation. And he was already a great manager, but he that much more became invested in the business. He just kept saying the words, I'm so grateful that, the owners of the company allow me to be who I am, right? That's the type of stuff that, I think you don't need a whiteboard for that, right? You need the human quality. You gotta ask for it. You gotta listen to it a little bit. And then as an owner of the business, you gotta, take the step. You got to break through that. We can't do this here, or we shouldn't do this, and just ask yourself authentically, is this the business I want to create, where I am appreciating, my employees' passions a little bit more, right? And what they have, I guess you could call soccer a purpose, but it really was for this individual, and the business was able to bring it in a bit more. And at that point, it became a very similar exercise with the entire management team, right? And everyone just kind of started to appreciate each other's passions and talents and stuff like that. And really, really cool way to bring in that energy to the organization while still remaining consistent with your vision and what you want to accomplish, right?
That's good. Good question.
Yeah.
Is there for an example, you being a pastor in the past, there's a thing out there is called spiritual gifts. There's a test, basically. It's not like you fill out the form and it kind of gives you.
Yep. Yep.
Is there something as far as business to find out people's strengths, weaknesses?
Yeah.
In mentioning that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Ted. So Ted's asking, very similar in the church world, there are spiritual gift inventories that you can take this assessment and it gives you an indication what your spiritual gifts may be. Is there something like that in the corporate world or maybe just life in general? What are your strengths? And I'm familiar with some. I'll give you the chance to answer.
Yeah, well, I think there's the Strength Finder.
That's the best one. The best one.
Yeah.
That's a Clifton Strengths Finder. Clifton is the guy's name, Strengths Finder. It's a Gallup. Gallup actually owns it now. And the book, I actually take all my team members through it and clients would go through it. But it's a small book. It's not very hard to read.
No. And you can even take the assessment online now. I think you can pay for it online. And
it's really, really good. And it goes through 50. There's a total of 50, but it gives you your top 5 strengths. Yeah. And says these are your top 5, and then how you should pour into those.
Yeah, and strategies on how to work with them and how to, I think there's also, they break each one down into a strategy of how to implement more of that in, at work or in life.
Yeah, definitely use Strength Finders. Is anybody present done that? I know some of us have. Strength Finders is very, very good. I think Ted, you'll really, really like that. We got a question from online.
Yes, Catherine is asking, it's easy to feel motivated right now, but how do we maintain this momentum and focus on our Ikigai in our everyday lives?
Yeah.
You wanna repeat that?
Yeah, the question was, it's easy to feel motivated right now.
But how do we maintain this momentum and focus on our Ikigai?
How do you maintain the focus on Ikigai and translate that into results? I guess that's where that question is going. Like I said before, I think the first thing that has to happen is setting the right intention for change, and setting the right intention that, you know what, I'm fed up of not doing something about it, and I actually want to make a change, right? Some people can make that change on their own. Some people need help through coaches, different programs to help them walk through that. But I don't think that's like, the technique is not the important thing. I think it's setting the intention to say, I will not give up on this at this point, and I will do the work, right? Like I said, some people can easily clarify what that looks like, you know. People that are organized, that have great planning skills, you know, they can just take all that and probably, you know, work that into what does the next 30, 60, 90 days look like. Other people need help for that, right? And I actually have to work with a coach. And this is where I will be dead honest. Work with a coach. Work with someone who has gone through that. Doesn't need to be me. Doesn't need to be Jason, even though I'm sure we'd be happy if it was us. But work with someone to help define what that looks like, what those steps should be, and to motivate yourself. It's the same thing like working out at the gym. Some people can go there religiously, not me, right? I need a personal trainer. I need someone that when I show up, I know it's going to be super efficient. It's going to be fun. They're going to guide me in terms of what I need to do, and I won't walk in there just wondering how am I going to fill the next 60 minutes or the next 90 minutes. Some people are very capable of doing it on their own and can stay, you know, religious about it and, you know, habitual about it. But figure out who you are, be honest about it, and then find out help if you need.
I would say my answer to that question would be, and I think it's a great question, Catherine, but I think that how do you maintain that long-term longevity of following is that if you're asking that question, then you're likely not in the Ikigai. That is my opinion. Because once I discovered mine, there's never been a moment where I was weary in what I am doing in the center of my Ikigai. Now, did I get weary in the business aspect of it? Sure, who's not going to? But that's not my Ikigai. It's just a vehicle to deliver the Ikigai. The business has to happen. So I would ask back the question, not intended for you to answer it publicly, but if you're up now, but then 2 weeks from now, you're like, I want to burn this whole thing to the ground. I hate it. Like, that's probably not your Ikigai. That's not the thing you should be doing. So I would say analyze that and consider it a little bit more deeply, because in my experience personally, that once I discovered that teaching was my Ikigai, I just had to figure out what's the vehicle. How do I deliver it? I decided to become a business coach, specializing with men, male entrepreneurs, running businesses. Like, that's the thing I did. So, you know, is that easy? No, this is the hardest business I've ever started in my life. And I've started a bunch. This is the hardest one. Never would do it again. But this is still my Ikigai. So I don't get weary in the doing of it. I get weary in the stuff around it, but that's necessary to be able to deliver it. So that's my 2 cents. Hey, as we get ready to finish up here, and these are great questions. Yeah. Do you have a story that you can share about someone discovering it and how it changed everything for them?
I'm going to give my own story because it's the only one I could really speak with like full honesty to and be 100% accurate in terms of the emotions that I've lived through. I was that stereotypical individual that woke up unhappy in life, even though I had all the material things around me and all of the you should be happy surroundings, right? But there was a deeper voice that was saying, that's not it. You know, like it just kept resonating, right? Yeah. I was unhealthy. I was practicing unhealthy habits. Alcohol was not my friend, right? I was getting a little too too friendly with it, and was going through divorce. Like these things were like, it was just, things, and I had brought this on myself, in all honesty, right? I had brought this all on myself. Aligning with the Ikigai, right? Like I said before, this is why I'm so passionate about what it's able to do to you in a mental state when you wake up every single day. All of that energy just dissipates. The frustration, the anger, right? All of the mental focus on what I don't have, why am I not doing this, why am I not successful, that just takes a bit of a backseat, because you start to realize I am actually walking a path right now that I enjoy, that is healthier, that is more balanced, that is more sustainable right now. So probably not the most glamorous story that people are looking for, but like I said, it's the one that I'm intimate enough with to realize that, if someone asks me, has your life changed? Absolutely. And it's still the journey, right? It's and every day I look back, and with the gratitude, I look back and I say, wow, like that iteration, like I'm here. Things I said that seemed like a pipe dream 3 years ago, I've surpassed already now, and it's like setting the new goal and setting the next, which is just a beautiful part of it, right? So yeah.
That's great. Well, I know that there are more questions from online that we're not going to be able to get to, but I bet you if Norm gives you his email address, you can email these questions to Norm, and he would be happy to answer. Yeah. So Norm, would you just give everybody your email address?
Yeah, it's nice and simple, nt@normtam.ca.
NT as in Normtam, at normtam.ca, because he's from Canada, A.
Yeah.
So it ends in an A, CA. Yeah. Or you can go visit him at ikigaiprocoaching.com. So as we start to wind this thing down and wind this up for today, I want to say this. Make sure that these 4 questions are something you contemplate right now. Don't be the lady who waited 10 years knowing that you should have contemplated, because you can't get that time back. You can't get that time back. And if you have kids, I think you and I are kind of the same opinion. Let's go talk to them, even though their life experiences, and they might want to be a princess, today, and they want to be a zookeeper tomorrow, and the therapist the next day. Like whatever that is, get them thinking about, what are you good at, baby? What are you really good at? What do you like to do? What do you think you could make money at? What kind of job do you? What could you do to impact the world? Those are good questions that we should start asking with our kids, talking to our kids. If you're married and your spouse is not in this thing right now, go talk to her or him and say, hey, what about you? What about your purpose? Where are you at? And these are very, very important questions. And I think this was a great way to end this series this year with Norm coming in and talking about purpose in life. For those that are live here in session, we're having, as soon as this is over, which will be done at the bottom of the hour, just like we promised, we'll be done at 2:30 Central Time here in just a few minutes. When we finish this, we're going to take about a 15-minute break, and then we're going to a VIP session where Norm is going to be working with anybody who stays in the VIP and go through these 4 questions with you and help you analyze it. We're going to do a couple of hours worth of this work. So this will get you started. And again, this isn't going to 100% answer the question, but it'll get you started on that right track. But the big thing that I want to make sure everybody's aware of before I finally thank Norm for being here, and then I have a gift I want to tell everybody about, is this. Tonight, we're going to be doing a super VIP dinner. Norm and I are going to be here. We're going to go to the Standard Restaurant here in Nashville, Tennessee. It's one of the top steak restaurants and cigar bars in the country. And this is only available for 5 people. So even if you're online and you're in Nashville and you weren't able to come to this, you could still do this. It's open for 5 people. It's $2,500 investment. That gets you dinner with us, but it also gets you 90 days of a coaching program with this guy to help you figure out your Ikigai. So you get 90 days with Norm, and you get 1 session with me on your business. I'm not going to coach you on Ikigai. That's not my role. That's his. I can help guide, but that's his role. But you get a coaching session with me on your business, and you get 90 days worth of coaching. That's a $12,000 value for $2,500. So even if you you can't, you're not here live. Anybody live can do this. And we can also, if you want to do this, here's how you're going to take action on it. I want you to send an email to my assistant, Renee. Her email is RL, as in Renee Liska, that's her name, RL at therealjasonduncan.com, RL at therealjasonduncan.com. And you just need to put Super VIP in the subject and just say you won the ticket. And then the first 5 people that sign up, you get it for $2,500. And even if you don't want to come to dinner, you live in Winnipeg or something, like he lives up in Canada. Well, if you live somewhere else, but you want those 90 days for only $2,500, this is your opportunity to get 90 days worth of $12,000 worth of coaching for only $2,500. You just miss out on a good cigar and a steak with us tonight. But you can do that. So RL at therealjasonduncan.com to cash in on the Super VIP. That expires in 2 hours, because if we don't know who's coming in 2 hours, we're going to go have cigars by ourselves, and we're going to sit down and have a steak. And
For us.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to go anyway. It costs you $2,500 to have dinner with us. But anyway, I want to say big thanks to Norm. This has been awesome, dude. Yeah. This was really, really good. Thank you guys for being live here. I do have one last thing. Actually, before I show you what I have as a gift, an option for you to access a gift, because next week is Black Friday, it's Thanksgiving, all that shopping starts. So I've got an offer for you to show you. But I want to tell you about 2024. This EMS series, Entrepreneur Masters series, that we've been doing now for a couple of years, we're changing it up in 2024. And so these have been live 90-minute webinars when we do them monthly. And then when we do them live in person, we do a 2-hour, right? This is what you just experienced. Next year, we're moving this to a full day event. We're going to be doing full day events. So we're going to be bringing in guest speakers. We're going to move it to a new venue here in the Nashville area. We don't know where we're going to have this yet, but we're working on it. Renee's working on it. We're going to have a new venue, guest speaker, and we're going to be diving into the XOS system. This is a system that I've developed called the Exeter Operating System, XOS. And we're going to show you exactly how to get out of the weeds of daily operations of your business, have your business run profitably and sustainably without you spending 50 to 60 hours a week in the business, so that perhaps you could find your Ikigai. Maybe that's what this whole thing's about. So be on the lookout in your emails. If you're not on my email list, make sure that you're going to send an email to Renee, just like I gave you the email a minute ago. Say, put me on the list, and you'll be notified when we have our first event. We're scheduled to have our first event in February next year. But that is tentative because we're still looking for the location. But be on the lookout for the next event. It'll be a day-long event, 9 to 5 on a Friday, all day long content, just like this, with opportunities to go deeper on the back end if you're interested. So just be on the lookout for that. Now, let me finish up by talking about something that's coming up in January. This is the Third Mind Intensive Retreat. This is something I host at my cabin in the Great Smoky Mountains of East Tennessee. I do these 4 times a year, and they're limited to 5 people each time. That's it. We do have somebody who's present in the room who's been to one of these, so you can ask him later if it was worth it. But these events start on a Sunday afternoon at like 4 o'clock, and they go to 4 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. So it's a 48-hour time frame, and the whole purpose of this is to get you past your biggest obstacle that you're dealing with at that particular moment on business. So for example, what we do on Mondays, all day on Monday, is each of the 5 people get 90 full minutes in front of the whole group to go over ask questions about their biggest obstacle. Here's my biggest obstacle. Here's this big obstacle, whatever that is. And it's 90 minutes of everybody in the room focused on you. And I'm the master facilitator to help those questions come together. And then on Tuesday, everybody gets a 45-minute session where we give you the 90-day action plan to accomplish your objective over the next 90 days. And let me tell you, this is intense, and it gets people set free. We had, Leon, who's here, at that event, he and his business partner both came. And as a result of that, it was a decision on changing roles of who was the CEO of different companies, like completely changing things. And he'll tell you, because he said it to me yesterday in our coaching session, that changed everything. That was a huge opportunity that they would not have thought about. I had another guy that just went to our one that we did in September, and he said that he has now implemented 90% of the changes that we gave him in his action plan that he agreed to, by the way. We didn't tell you to do anything. You have to agree. But he said, I've done 90%. It's made all the difference in the world. I got rid of all the things that were not making me money, and now everything is working exactly the way I want. We had another guy who was a business coach and didn't know what his brand messaging or his brand was. He spends his time in the 90-minute and then the 45-minute action plan and comes up with the whole idea, oh, this is what I got to do. And now he's fully implementing that plan to this day. So if you want to get through your biggest obstacle, what better way than to start your 2024 with me and 5 people just like you at a private retreat in the Smoky Mountains with a private chef, top shelf booze, great food, and amazing cigars. I buy my favorite cigars in the world. So if you're into cigars, you get the best ones in the world. We bring them. We have a great time Sunday night, have a big dinner. We do the thing all day Monday, and you're done by Tuesday. And on your way home Tuesday, you're going to be like, holy crap. It would have taken me another year or 2 to figure this stuff out. I figured it out in 48 hours. This usually costs $2,750. That's all in. That's your accommodations and all the food. $2,750. That's what it normally costs. But for Black Friday, starting today through Cyber Monday, if you use the coupon code Black Friday 23. Did I say we put the wrong date on it? Anyway, I guess it is Black Friday 23, but it's 420. Black Friday 23. So when you go to the website I'm about to give you, use this code Black Friday 23. You get $750 off. Now it's only limited to 5 people. So if I get more than 5 people sign up, I'll have to choose the 5 to get to go in January, and then I'll honor that for the next one I do. I think the next one's in June or something. But go to therealjasonduncan.com/intensive. therealjasonduncan.com/intensive. Use Black Friday 23. You get $750 off. It's going to be a weekend that you will never forget. Once again, big thanks to Norm Tam for being here. Thanks to Desk Rig for running everything on the back end. Thanks to Justin, who handled all this stuff here in the room for me. And thanks to Renee. She's awesome. My awesomest assistant ever. She's great. She's here. And everybody else for coming live. Thank you for being here. God bless you. Have a great time over Thanksgiving break next week. And don't eat too much turkey. We'll see you next time.